SG has to be one of the most iconic guitar shapes. If you just saw the silhouette of it, you'd know it was an SG. And I'm going to tell you why you don't want one. Now, before we get to all that stuff, if you guys would, hit the subscribe button. If you're digging the content that's going on, come hang out with us. And let's talk about SGs a little bit. Now, the first reason, and what I'm going to recommend for any of these, is you want to make sure you play a bunch of SGs before you would buy one, because they have a very distinct feel to them. The first thing you got to watch out for on an SG, and this one's probably the first one that a lot of you thought of, is the neck dive. The guitar, if you see it on my lap, if I let go with my left hand, it just neck dives. Really, really bad. You can sit in some ways in it, and it helps it, but it does make it a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes you can change the strap button, and that'll make it a little bit better, but pretty much every SG I've ever played has had some kind of neck dive. Some are worse than others, so just kind of watch out for that. A lot of guitars don't have that. The biggest one of all of these is the feel of an SG. Everything is shifted this way. If you've never played one before, you're in for a shock, because you're gonna feel especially your right hand. For me, it's my right hand feels so out of place whenever I played one. Now I'm used to it, and I actually really like them. But if you're just trying to, like, I would want to try something new, get an SG out of the blue. I don't know. That was way too. Huh? There were so many rhymes in there that I didn't plan, and it just kind of worked that way. But yeah, the feel of an SG is extremely different. I think that is the biggest turnoff to people, and you have to accept an SG as it's its own thing. So if you want it to play like a Strat, or you want it to play like a Les Paul, it's not the guitar for you. The next one I want to talk about is the sound of an SG. Now, I do think that SGs have their own sound, but with a lot of humbucker guitars, especially Gibsons in particular, it doesn't sound like radically different. You're not going to get this tonal shift from, say, a Les Paul to a Strat. Like, those are very opposite of the tone spectrum, you know, instruments. Like, you hear one and you know, like, oh, that's a Strat. You hear the other one, oh, it's a Les Paul or some kind of humbucker guitar. SGs, like I said, have their own sound, but it's not wildly different. So if you're wanting a completely different sound from your humbucker guitar that you already have, it's not going to give you this, like, huge tonal, you know, revelation. So I don't know. Think about that. Maybe go a different style of pickups. And the final one I wanted to throw in here was the control layout. This is just something that takes a little bit of getting used to. There is a lot going on in this tiny little spot on an SG. I've never personally understood why they don't have the jack mounted on the side versus on the front, but that's just kind of the way that it goes, and if you like SGs, you just accept it. You could, of course, get a 90-degree cable. That would help a bunch. But even with that, this cable really stops me from getting to this tone knob on the neck pickup side of things. So I don't know, if you are a person who uses your tone, volume, all that stuff all the time, it's very cluttered down here. So again, you'll need to try one, get used to it, or you know, move on to something else. To wrap up the video, I wanted to list a reason why you might want an SG. I talked about all these reasons why you won't want one. Now let's talk about why you will want one. And I think it's an SG's strongest asset, is that nothing else feels like an SG. If you're looking for something that is radically different than what you already have, again, I would kind of reiterate a point I said earlier, make sure you try them first. I don't think that these are just a dive-in style guitar. Like, you want to make sure you play a bunch of them. But I think its strongest asset is that it feels super unique, you know, and that might bring out different ideas. The way an SG feels is what makes me want to play, you know, different stuff, come up with new riffs. So I think that's the strongest thing an SG has going for it. That, and it looks cool. So other than that, I'm gonna bounce on out of here. If you guys would, hit the subscribe button, come hang out with me, and yo, we're gonna end it bluesy SG style. I just remembered I'm tuned down.